Today we're going to be doing a little refresher on some lockout, tagout, and going through our steps for how to lock out and tag out our equipment. I'm Travis Anderson. I'm here with
Keith Bunger.
So we feel that we need to do this for a couple reasons. We want to do a refresher for people who have been doing lockout and maybe need just that little refresher. Some for people who haven't been doing a lot of lockouts. And other just to help reinforce our culture at Interstates to make sure we're doing it as safe as we can no matter what. A couple statistics I got from Tyler. There's going to be 150 people die each year from lockout, tagout accidents. There's also 50,000 people each year are injured with lockout, tagout instances. So we want to make sure that we're following the rules that we have set, and our rules follow our OSHA standards that are set in place of what we need to do when we're locking out and taking out equipment. First steps that we want to do is when we're doing lockout, tagout, is we do our pre-job first. We've done our pre-job here. We filled out all of our hazards that we have and what measures we need to do to eliminate those hazards. Also, what you need to do is when you lock out is you're going to have to get a lock. You're going to have to obtain your lock. We have a couple forms for doing that. You have individual forms, or you've had a lockout sheet on your lock box that you will be filling out. And then you also will need your checklist for lockout. Anytime we're locking out equipment, you need to fill out a lockout checklist. That is one step we want to make sure that everyone is doing no matter what. I feel like we need to make sure that everyone is aware that anytime you're locking out a piece of equipment, you need to get a checklist and do that for each piece of equipment you're in a lockout. So Keith's got the lockout checklist there for us. We've done our pre-job. We've obtained our locks. So we're going to go through and fill out some of our papers and get our PPE ready, and then we're going to start locking out.
So as we go through this checklist, first thing that we want to do is look at why we're doing the checklist. Purpose of this is to build awareness and confidence in performing lockout by using a systematic method and sequence to verify a zero state of energy before work begins. All lockout requires a verification of a second individual. It takes at least one qualified person and another knowledgeable or qualified person to complete a lockout. The lockout checklist is also available on the mobile frame via the iPad. Okay, we got the paper form, either one works. So to start off on this checklist, locking out, what are we going to be locking out today? Where's our service, where's our feeder, branch circuit, voltage, phases, stuff like that. Most of this information is all going to be on labels on your piece of equipment. If it is not on there, or if it is out of date, then that's where we go kind of back to our default values. But most of the time, everything will be on the sticker on your equipment. So finish filling out the top part on there. For us, we're working on a 3-phase 480 volt. So now we have 2 people here. Supervisor signature on the top line. And then we're going to run through this checklist. Both of us initialing as we go, making sure that we have the all the proper pieces in here. So, step number 1, follow procedures for obtaining a personal lock, which we got our personal locks here. Contact the customer. We have contacted the customer, and we're still running this lockout from here. So that's going to be on us now. Verify if the plant has stricter policies that must be followed. Where we're at, we have the most stringent policies that are in place, so we're going to be following Interstates policies. Identify equipment to be locked out. Do not rely on labels. So I'll let you initial on them. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be locking out this motor right here. We're going to be doing a go no-go test, verifying that this motor does actually go to this bucket. So I come in here, I'm going to kick this motor on and start running it. All right, so I can see that the motor is actually running. Everything on here is working. Okay, I come in, I shut this back off. I see that that motor shut off when I flip the switch, verifying that process.
If you cannot do that, as opposed, if this motor was burned up, you're gonna have to find a different method for doing a go no-go test. You're gonna have to get the meter out, test your leads to make sure you have the correct motor. You can test it, in the bucket. You can trace the wires down. You got to make sure that you have the right disconnect or switch for the piece of equipment you're going to be locking out. If it is gear, if it is motor, or another piece of equipment, just make sure that you have the right piece of equipment. So you got that one done.
Then identify all power disconnecting means. So electrical disconnecting means. We're going to be right here on this piece of MCC. So yes, we do have electricity. If your equipment is labeled, we'll start putting our labels and everything on here for what panel number, what circuit number. The pneumatic, hydraulic, liquid, gravity, stored energy, UPS, capacitors, generator, or tie switch. None of those apply to what we are doing today, but if they do, make sure that all that equipment is locked out if it applies to your situation. Step 6, identify other equipment that needs to be locked out ahead or downstream. Again, we are at the motor. We don't have anything else downstream of this, or we don't need to lock out anything upstream from this, so we're good to go on that one. Re-verify all energy sources that need to be locked out. The energy source that we need to lock out today is going to be right here at this bucket to de-energize this motor.
8, determine if that has a checklist. So if we're working on a piece of equipment that's on some process, make sure you follow the correct checklist for shutting that down. If that piece of equipment has a checklist, make sure you follow those procedures. Here, this motor does not have a checklist, so we don't have to worry about that. Number 9, de-energize the equipment. So we've determined that this switch right here, this bucket, runs that motor. So we're going to now de-energize that equipment. So number 9. We're going to apply our lock and tag. Whoop. Flip that up.
And as we apply our locks, this key becomes our personal property, so make sure you keep a hold of that key. It's in your possession at all times.
Do not set the key on top of your equipment, in your equipment, give it to someone else. You're always in charge of your key when you're locking out. Number 11, attempt to re-energize. So that's one thing that we want to make sure we always try to do is re-energize to make sure that we do have the right equipment and we haven't got mixed up on panels. So I'm going to try to hit the switch, nothing happens. Try to hit forward, reverse, nothing is happening. So our motor is verified that it is locked out.
Since it did not re-energize, we need to select the correct meter for the task. Are we on a branch circuit or feeder, or are we on supply side? Right now we are on our branch circuit, so we need at least a Cat 3 meter.
And once we get our meter, we're gonna now put on our PPE for getting in and testing to make sure that we are off. When you are going through and checking out what PPE you need, make sure that you follow the matrix on what you need to find. So we are in a 480 MCC, so since we're going to be in gear, in a panel or gear, we're going to be in the class 3 or 4 range, and since we have 480 volts, we are going to be in the class 4 work. So we're going to be following what PPE we need in here. If we're just doing voltage checks, we're going to be down and we're going to be using a 11 cal suit. So we're going to be grabbing our PPE bag and going through putting on our PPE, and couple other things you need to make sure you follow is the other safety precautions. We're going to, fire extinguisher, rubber mats, spotters. Make sure that we have the correct PPE in place. So we'll grab that and then we'll get back to getting our lockout done.